without any further ado, we should be able to get this rolling. I'm gonna count us down from 5. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go.
All right, so this is Sonic 3D Blast. It's, I believe, the first 3D game of the Sonic series, and for some reason they decided that isometric platforming would be the way to go. So the goal of this game is to try to collect all the flickies in each stage to be able to move on. And the flickies have somehow been captured by these random enemies you'll see throughout the game. And the different flickies actually have different properties as well. The blues and purples are usually pretty nice and try to go towards Sonic. The green like to just do whatever the heck they want. And the red likes to jump around.
Yes, that is correct.
Also, as you may have noticed, this game is kind of on ice physics. Sonic is very slippery while he tries to move around, which makes it quite a hard game to optimize. But what's nice about this game as well is that it's very glitchless, and it's basically just about optimizing that movement as you go throughout these stages. So while I was talking, Amber already blasted through the first two sectors of the first act of Green Grove.
Yep.
And now in Green Grove 2, we're gonna get to the first special stage. So as Amber mentioned, this is best ending.
I'm actually going to be bailing on the first emerald already because
bad.
I could save this, but it would be pretty dicey. We'll see what I can do, actually. So one thing that's really interesting about this category in particular is you have to route out 50 rings to be able to pick up throughout the act to find Knuckles and Tails. I need 6 rings. Can I do that? I even need 730. Alright, cool. So we're good. There's actually enough for me to back it up. It's really slow for me to do it this way, but I'd like to not start off with an emerald deficit. There's about 20 locations. There's actually exactly 20 locations. There's Knuckles and Tails in each act up until the end of Volcano Valley. And you run over to them, give them 50 rings, they bring you here to the special stage to collect a Chaos Emerald. And there's only about 11 or so viable emeralds for the speedrun. So the reason why I went out of my way for marathon safety's sake was to save that ring route, because normally I would abandon it as soon as I take a hit and just pick up a backup emerald somewhere else. A lot of these backup emeralds are not very slow or not very fast or are just very, very marathon unsafe. Because the later I push off picking up certain emeralds, the more likely I am to potentially make further mistakes and not be able to complete the category. That said, this is normally my very first emerald here in Green Grove 2 with Knuckles, and yeah, the special stages, they're a thing.
They're very interesting. Basically, you just run in a fairly straight line and try to get to the emerald, and you also have to collect 50, 100, and 150 rings through the checkpoints.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also utilize a movement tech I forgot to mention, which is called jump storage. Where in this game, if you're in the air and you hold the jump button, then on the first frame you land, you'll actually just start jumping again. Which is a very, very useful thing in this game. As when you jump, you actually are you're invincible when you jump and you can't get hit by enemies. So when you're trying to kill the enemies and collect their flickies, you can just jump storage around until you hit it, basically. It's a very useful tech, and you can also use this in the special stage to jump around the spikes easier.
Yes, that is absolutely correct. And also, like, I am just not having a good GG2, and that's okay.
Well, at least you got the emerald, so losing rings doesn't matter too much.
Yeah, so actually, while we're at it, can we talk about how awful it is to, and we have an example of not taking damage but losing your flickies. Can we talk about how awful it is to take damage or lose your flickies in this game?
Yeah.
I think now would be in a very appropriate time.
Yeah, so you can lose your flickies in a couple of ways. Either Sonic hits directly, in which case you both lose all your rings and you lose your flicky train. But the flickies themselves actually can get hit as well. I should probably talk about the boss first, I realize. So this is the first boss in the game. I'll get back to the flickies after. And the bosses are basically just you hit Eggman a certain amount of times. For Green Grove, you have to hit him 5 times.
We got 1 hit so far. So normally your efficient cycle is a 3 cycle. I'm getting a 5. I think it's gonna be a 5 cycle actually. My god. So normally you're able to get 2 hits per cycle, like that. But I failed to do that multiple times in a row, even getting a 0 hit cycle at one point. So 39 is not very good. Your typical time is a 26 with your optimal cycle.
Yeah. So anyway, I was just getting to the flickies that you have behind you in the stages can also get hit themselves, in which case you lose the flickies. They're the flicky that get hit, and then any that are behind Sonic, or behind that flicky. I cannot talk today.
So it's alright, neither can I. I can't even play today.
Great. The flickies you lose, as I mentioned, they move in different ways, and the green ones and red ones are especially difficult, because the green one can just wander off wherever the heck it feels like. It can be a real pain to get back sometimes.
Especially when most of the stage is green. It's fantastic. Oh, yeah. So this stage, Gene wonderful. Gadget, they're...
and also now in Rusty Ruin 1, we have the spinning state introduced, where Sonic is now on extreme ice physics. Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's... Hello? Okay.
The flickies are not playing nice. Yeah, that's basically the worst that can happen. The flickies just wander around and it's really hard to see between all the environment. But yeah, with the spinning state, we're now on super ice physics and also our rubber ball. So Sonic has even stronger ice physics and just slides around a lot. And also, if you hit anything, you just bounce off it with ridiculous speeds, and it's really, really difficult to control. Luckily, it's not. It's only in this chapter, or in this zone rather. Celeste coming out.
I was gonna say it's a little too much Celeste in Sonic's world there. But yeah, for those of you who don't know, this game was developed by Traveler's Tales, who also are responsible for another gem called Sonic R. And everything is on ice and rubber, made of rubber in that game. So imagine that being in this game. Just far more aggravating, because now you're doing an escort mission while you're at it. But this stage, Rusty Ruin 2, introduces something that Zergriff discovered back in, I want to say, December of 2018.
Yep, sounds about right.
And I'm not going to attempt to say it because I can't English to save my life today.
Freed flicky flagging.
Yes, that.
So, the way this works is the game sort of saves which flickies have gotten out of their enemies' cages, I guess, and saves the state as just they are saved, they are free. So when you're done with a special stage, the game will just give you all the flickies, even if you didn't actually have them following you when you went in. Because the game just thinks they're freed, so they must be following him.
Yeah, it's messing with the flags.
Yeah, which is the name, freed flicky flagging, so makes perfect sense.
So that is about the closest you get to a glitch in this game. It is mostly a coding exploit, because that is just meant to be a failsafe to prevent, flickies just... The game can't possibly track flickies while you're in a special stage, because you're essentially in a completely different place. Which is why that works the way it does. So just to... Yes, 169. Don't mind me, I'm a child.
Oh
I'm a big child.
Great.
Shoutouts to TGH, the world record holder of this category, who I don't think he got 169 for every emerald in that run, but he tried really hard. He'd be very proud of me right now.
Alright.
But yeah, just freed flicky flagging is seen a few times in the run. This is just the first instance of it, and is honestly the most prominent one.
DD2?
DD1. So Diamond Dust 1 is the next one that you'll see, and then you can flag a little bit in Diamond Dust 2 and Volcano Valley 1.
Yeah, but we'll get to that when we get there. I don't think there's that much else to talk about here. We can talk about, there's the power-ups as well, forgot to mention. So right now, she's picked up some speed boosts on my screen at least, which just makes Sonic a lot faster. Very, very simple, simple power-up. There's also shields of different colors. There's the, which one? There's blue shield, which is basically just a normal shield. You can't get hit while you have it, or it'll basically take a hit for you. There's also a gold shield, which is basically the homing attack if you played Sonic Adventure with 2.
1 or 2. Either of them had the homing attack.
Right. So basically, you if you're in the air and you press jump again, Sonic will just home in on the closest enemy. And then there's also going to be fire shields, which makes you invulnerable to fire, which is very useful in the fire stage. So now we're going to have the second boss, and this is actually the fastest stage in the entire game, because you can do a damage boost and get up on the paw very early and just hit Eggman before he even gets a chance to start attacking you.
I freaked out a little bit there, but we're okay. That should be a 13.
Alright, yeah, there you go. And the best time you can get here is a 10, which is very, very hard to get. Usually people get 11s if they do the entire strat correctly, and 13 if you mess up just a little bit. And now we're Spring Stadium!
Ah, yes, Discount Candyland, my favorite. This is a stage where avert your eyes. Just because you can use every crayon in the coloring box, just because you can use every color in the crayon box doesn't mean you should, and just because you can use words doesn't mean you should, Amber.
Right. So yeah, this is Spring Stadium. It's my least favorite stage in the game by far, and it has some fun mechanics like balloons, which are really fun. They're actually pretty fine. They just give you an extra jump basically in the air. There's also spike tiles that shoot spikes up when you walk over them, which is usually not a big problem except for in one part in Spring Stadium 2. And also there's bumpers that just bump you around, and they're probably the most annoying to deal with, just because there are certain areas where you can just literally get stuck between two bumpers, which is really funny.
Oh, it's funny when you're not the runner.
Oh no, I've laughed my ass at myself doing it, so I don't know.
That's fair.
We have another special stage. So as you may have noticed, the special stages are pretty similar to each other. They basically just differ the spike layouts and where there are slopes.
And also, like, they speed up very gradually over the run. There's actually 14 unique special stages in this game. There's 7 each for Knuckles and Tails. And most of the Knuckles stages, for the most part, are slightly faster than the Tails ones, and they're also a bit easier as well. The difference is fairly negligible, so you can honestly do what you want. It's really the locations of Knuckles and Tails that matter the most to us in routing.
Yeah, so since we need 50 rings to get to the special stages, the route has been like both just the ease of how to get to Tails or Knuckles, then also how easy it is or how safe it is to get the 50 rings before you get there. So some stages have like very strict ring limits. Giga 2 comes to mind. Usually it's pretty strict.
Giga doesn't have a ring route because there's no special stage.
Sorry,
you mean
Green Grove?
Oh yeah,
Green Grove 2. But yes, and then some, like we'll see, Diamond Dust has a very lenient ring route.
Yeah. Volcano Valley 1 is also a very, very tight ring route. It's actually a perfect ring route in the Saturn and PC versions of the game, which have some slight differences. And then it's a 52 ring route, so you only have 2 rings of leniency in the Genesis version, which actually, since we're here and I'm just going to be bouncing around, can you talk a little bit about the differences between the Saturn and PC versions in this game? Because there are 3 platforms this game is out on.
There are 3. So
I run all of them.
The Genesis version is what you're seeing right now, which is, in my opinion, the best one, just because it doesn't look terrible and the loads aren't terrible. The Saturn version has very, very interesting and fun special stages, but very, very bad load times.
Yeah, and a very different soundtrack and visuals.
Yeah, right. I think it's slightly updated, but I kind of prefer the looks of this one. I don't know about
Same.
You. Yeah. And then the PC version, I actually don't know too much about the PC version. I know it's not good.
So, I hold the world record for the PC version that was released on Windows 97. Don't run that game, it is terrible. It is a slightly downgraded version of the Saturn visuals and soundtrack. Its special stages are really what set it apart, and not in a good way. Just like how the Saturn special stages are what set it apart from this one in a good way. PC is quite the opposite. Those special stages, just go watch my run.
I've seen parts of your run, and it's just like, oh boy, how is this a game?
I believe Ben in Sweden, who made the auto splitter for this game, put it the best way. Next on John Burton's YouTube channel on Game Hut, it's like an episode that is how it's done on how we messed up this version so badly.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. So I talked about the spike toss earlier, where Amber just was the, or on my screen at least, the last red flicky can be a bit of a pain, especially with all the spikes around, but luckily she had no problem. Now for the worst boss, to go with the worst stage.
I'm gonna be quiet for this one.
Boss, yep. So this boss has a cycle where every other hit, basically it'll go up or down. Usually you would have to wait for it to go down, but if you do very specific jumps here in the beginning, you can sort of make Eggman go and just go around this opening platform, or middle platform, and you can technically get all 8 hits very fast, but it's also very, very hard.
It is incredibly difficult. I was lucky to get 4 there.
I've gotten 8 once, I think.
Yeah, I've gotten 8, like, I think I've gotten 8 maybe 5 times, and only 2 of them were ever in runs.
Yeah, so it's a really, really tricky boss to optimize, and even just to beat in general. The world record is 17 by Co-Empathy, which is a ridiculous time.
TGH also got a 17.
Alright, I wasn't aware. Cool.
Like, he actually figured that out.
Okay.
Oh,
so,
God bless him.
now we have ice physics, but more ice physics. This is Diamond Dust, the snow stage, where you have some more enemies, and you also have a lot of ice, which just makes the game even more slippery and difficult to control, because that's really what it needed.
There we go. It also has the most lenient ring route, because you saw me take a hit on the second flicky on the penguin, and you would think that normally anyone in their right mind would drop the ring route. No, we get plenty of rings from this auto-scroller section. We can flag here, and then there's a bunch of rings right here, and also not right in front of Tails, but along the snow river right before Tails that lets me hit 50.
Yeah, I think there's about like 20-something rings in just the auto-scroller, so it's a really, really lenient ring route.
Yeah.
Also in Diamond Dust, or in Special States, there's an enemy that is the Snowman, which is...
that's
a fun enemy. The Snowman is the only enemy that can actually just insta-kill you, even if you have rings. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. I think it is that it can shoot projectiles, and if you run into it at the same time as it shoots a snowball, it just hits you twice and doesn't give you invulnerability.
So it's very much like the spike glitch in Sonic 1, for anyone who's familiar with that, where if Sonic hits the spikes and he gets knocked back, he's normally supposed to have iframes, but if he lands on further spikes, then he takes further damage despite the fact that he should have iframes and instantly dies. A similar concept happens here with these snowmen, where if you try to roll into them but you get hit by the snowball as he's firing it, you then make contact with the snowman and just instantly die. It'll look like you get crushed by the ice cube that it spawns, because you have to free the flicky, you have to break the snowman and then it's ice cube. Don't fall back in the river, oh my god. But you're not actually getting crushed by the ice cube at all. It can't hurt you. You're just getting essentially spike glitched, but in 3D Blast with a snowman.
3D spike glitch, woo! Yeah, it's not a very fun thing. Let's see. Don't think there's that much. Wait, which one are you in?
I'm still in DD1, yeah. But DD1, you can go ahead and start queuing up the explanation for DD2 and hope to God that I don't mess it up.
DD2 is the only stage in the Genesis version where we actually get 2 emeralds, both Tails and Knuckles, because they're fairly far apart and have nice ring routes where you can get both. However, if you were to play the Saturn and PC version, right?
Correct.
I think.
Yep.
Yeah, then you can actually only get 1, because it just doesn't allow you to get 2 for the same act for some reason.
Yeah, it'll just give you an extra life.
Yeah. So, but in Genesis we can take advantage of the very nice ring routes and nice placements of both Tails and Knuckles and get both, hopefully.
This snowman ruined my run last time, so I did a run yesterday for Retrothon, and that snowman in particular destroyed my ring route, so I had to bail on Tails, take Knuckles, and then take a later emerald in Volcano Valley 2, which I really hate doing.
Yeah, that one's not fun.
But you're gonna see me flag these 2 in particular, although the blue one latched onto me, which is fine. because that snowman is awful. We call that the snowman arena. It's garbage. Don't deal with it. You might think that, we have a very negative opinion of this game. We really don't. I wouldn't have been running this game on and off for, like, going on 6 years now if I didn't enjoy this game.
I have mixed feelings.
Yeah, it's a bit of a slog, and it has major design flaws, but it's coded really well. I will admit, aside from the snowman issue, it's mostly coded very, very well. Because it's a glitchless run for starters, but also, like...
Except free flicky flagging. God damn. Why is that named... I know why it's named like that, but why is it named like that?
Look, man, I didn't come up with it. Tej likes to call it the
Yeah, that sounds pretty... Yeah, that sounds good. Jesus.
But yeah, like... This speedrun is actually very accessible to newer players, because of its lack of glitches and just, the fact that it's all movement-based, so it's easy to learn, but very difficult to master. Getting good at movement in this game takes a lot of work. With how much I don't get to run the game as often as I'd like, simply because real life. So I mostly do marathons, which is why my movement is not, up to par with some of the other, runners I'm friends with, but, like, for the most part, this definitely demonstrates a very, very good base of knowledge for getting into the speedrun, and there's also a beginner's guide that I wrote. There's some movement guides by the only kid who's a taster of this game. Oh my god, there's also best-ending route maps that were drawn by Zergriff and myself. So if you ever wanted to get into learning the game, it is very easy to pick up. Whether or not it's easy to master is up for debate.
You can basically just anyone you see on SRC that's done a run in the past like half year. They are probably gonna be active and very helpful because it's a really, really fun speedrun, especially to learn. Because it seems like such a terrible game, which it kind of is. But the speedrun is just so good, just because of its movement, like, oriented gameplay, which I really enjoy.
Yeah, like, Swezzy and TGH actually came from the Celeste community and approached me on the game after doing a run on for Speedathon, which was on TGH's channel. And they both approached me to, like, ask me about the game, because, like, it just looked interesting. Like, Tej grew up with this game, but Swezzy had never played it in his life.
I had never finished a Sonic game until this game.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So that's just a testament to take, like, and if you don't know what Celeste is, go look it up. It's a fantastic game, but it's another very heavy movement-oriented glitchless speedrun, and that's a platformer as well. And it's the kind of runner who would like Celeste is also the kind of runner that could get into 3D Blast and enjoy it at a higher level.
So now we have another boss here, DD3. This is a fairly straightforward boss where you basically just have to wait for Eggman to come down to him. Unless you're ridiculously good or a task, in which case you can actually jump off the snowman and hit Robotnik or Eggman while he's still in the air. Somehow, if you're, a tasker basically. I think the kid found that out, right? Yeah,
Kid did discover that you can actually gain a little bit of extra height that exceeds Sonic's max jump height. So you can catch Eggman right at the very beginning of his descent, and it cuts a good chunk of time off of the IL. And that's used in the best ending tasks, which he'll carry over into the any % task should he make one. But now we're in Volcano Valley 1. This should be my last emerald I pick up, assuming I don't make a very grave error here and have to pick up an emerald in the next stage, because this is a very tight ring route. Like I said earlier in the run, this has 2 rings of leniency, and we should be good. So I'm flagging flickies along the way, and then we're going to break this wall, go through this M-shaped tunnel that you don't know is actually M-shaped, because you can't see it. And hit up Knuckles for our 7th emerald, and as long as I don't accidentally run into spikes without any rings, we should be good. Which,
nice.
I have like, this should be the last emerald, and the remainder of this run up until the final fight, which is the exclusive boss for collecting all of the cough drops. that the run is identical to the any percent run from this point forward.
Yep. Also, in the after VV2 is basically forced to be 100% because there are no emeralds to get. So you basically have, so that's also why, as I mentioned, there are you have to get all the emeralds before VV2, so this will be less on your VV1 instead.
Yep, Sonic got all the Chaos Emeralds. You mean Cuff Drops, right? They look like halls. If you can't see them, it's because my capture card, for some reason or another, likes to capture retro games at 30 frames per second, no matter what settings I mess with. So I apologize. You'll also notice that sometimes when I have a shield active, I either look like a solid ball of color, or it looks like I have nothing at all on. But I can suddenly do homing attacks, or I can walk on fire, which you'll see in VV2. But yeah, like, that just... 30 frames per second is not fun, because you can't tell if I'm, off trying to kill myself by accident, or if I have all the Chaos Emeralds or not. You may never know.
Yeah, so this is Volcano Valley, as we mentioned, and this is obviously a fire stage, and the fire shield we mentioned that we're gonna get in VV2 just makes you completely immune to all lava, all fire, everything. It's such a nice shield, and especially in VV2, because there's a lot of fire everywhere that can just mess you up really easily.
Also, the blue platforms you see me spin dashing on, you're not supposed to be able to jump up and do that, but it's kind of like a very ancient precursor to, if anyone's familiar with the Sonic Adventure 2 speedrun, super bouncing, where we take our horizontal momentum and make ourselves go vertical. You actually gain, I think 9 frames of extra jump height or something, to be able to clear those cliffs once you reach a certain height. So I remember to hold up and left, so I've already cleared the hardest part of VV2.
Good stuff. Yeah, there's a really cycle where you just hold up left, and then you're fine. Oh?
We're okay. We somehow did not lose the shield, but...
What?
So, alright, so... I'm just I'm still in awe, which is why I can't spring, but
okay, so that part is a bit weird. There's a thing that can happen there, and basically anytime you get shield, where you can take the shield and then also get hit by fire and lose the shield immediately.
Yeah, for some reason.
I haven't seen that variant where you took the shield, then got hit and took damage. That's really interesting. That's weird.
So actually, that's even more common in classic Sonics, where you take the shield, where you break a shield monitor, you then take damage, and then the shield becomes active, because there is a certain amount of frames where Sonic just doesn't have a shield. But what we're used to seeing there when I make the mistake is, I get the shield, and as soon as I get the shield, I take damage from the fire and lose the shield, which shouldn't happen because, it's a fire shield. But my theory is that, for a certain number of frames, the fire shield damage, or the fire shield properties are just not quite in, and it's treated as either a gold or a blue shield. But we have no proof, and any attempts to reach out to John Burton have been met with silence. So, John, if you ever watch any of these runs, please, please, please reach out to me. I don't care if it's Twitter, Discord, YouTube, whatever it might be. Just tell me, why does that happen?
That's the only thing you want to know about this game?
Well, there's a lot of things I want to know, but, that's the only thing I don't think any of the testers of this game have been able to figure out.
Yeah. This is the next boss. This is a very, very simple boss where you just run on these pipes, and then jump into Eggman 8 times. The only tricky part is actually landing on the pipes can be a little bit weird sometimes, but it's a very, very simple boss.
So now we're in Gene Gadget, or also known as the worst zone, Act 1 and 2.
Yeah, this is not a fun zone. I still say Spring Stadium is worse, but...
I think this is the hardest zone in the run, I think.
I will agree with that completely.
Oh my god.
Don't like Spring Stadium
I completely understand. Can we talk about turrets?
Turrets!
Oh my god.
So, the turrets spin around and shoot balls, which doesn't sound too annoying, but it's so annoying because they're very fast. You can actually jump on top of the turrets, but that's usually not a very good thing to do because you'll just get hit anyway.
They also snipe your flickies really easily.
And they snipe your flickies. Yeah. As I mentioned way long ago, that's a sentence. If your flickies get hit, you'll lose the flicky chain, and when the turrets spin that fast, it's just really easy to lose a little bit of track of your flickies, and then you just lose half of them, and then you don't realize, and then you're at the end of the stage and are asking where the heck your flickies went. I've never had that happen to me, Kappa.
There's
Every time.
At the end of the stage, the final teleporter, which I'm going to be coming up on very shortly, checks, actually, for whether or not you have all 5 flickies of this sector, and if you don't, it doesn't just send you back to the beginning of the sector, it sends you back to the beginning of the entire act. So you saw that brief pause.
Good run. Twice. I've never had that happen.
So you saw that brief pause there before it sent me forward. If I don't have all the flickies, it will send me to the left, which then sends me back to the beginning of the stage, and it loses about a minute or so. It's pretty awful.
I don't understand why they did that. It's so mean.
I've seen TGH lose a world record pace run to that, and I'm like, oh, you poor man. But, now it's Slope of Rage.
Get 2. Slope of Rage. We have... This stage is a bit weird. It has this one flicky that's just way out of the way, and then we have to go back to the Slope of Rage, as we call it. The slope is just... It's a slope, but because this is 3D Blast, the slope sucks.
Yep.
If you jump even a little bit wrong, you just get sent flying, like, down the entire thing, and you actually need to get 2 flickies here and then 1 at the bottom. It's a mess.
The one at the bottom is right next to the turret, too. Well. It's great.
Because why not?
And it's on top of electric panels, which are a lot like the spike panels in Spring Stadium, where if you stand on them about a third of a second later, they do something. They try to shock you. And the blue shield that I just picked up and immediately lost, actually, believe it or not, protects you from electricity. I didn't know that until about November.
I didn't know that until I started running the game, because of course I didn't.
But, like, man, that's a thing I didn't know about, and that's a thing a lot of people don't know about. So today you probably learned something.
Yeah. I mean,
and if you could take anything away from this run, besides isometric platforming is not a good game design, it is, blue shields are suddenly electric shields. It's great.
Yeah. Makes perfect sense in my mind.
So I hope you like auto-scrollers.
Because we have one, literally on a scrolling thing as well. It's perfect. This boss is just goes back and forth and sends, what is it, mines, I think, on the track?
Yeah, those like spike blocks or whatever it is.
Mines? I don't even know what it is. You can just, as Amber's doing, you can just stand diagonally and basically just stay still, and then just hit Eggman as soon as he comes down. It's very straightforward. Actually, kind of a nice break after the hell that is Giga 1 and 2.
Yes, it is actually a very chill boss. And also, fun fact, another slight difference between this and the Saturn and PC versions is that the spike block patterns that come across the conveyor belt, the Genesis has one that's a pattern that's always the same, but is unique to the Genesis platform, and the Saturn and PC have one that's unique to them, that is different from... Well, yeah, unique to them would mean different from the Genesis version, but it's always the same when you're playing that version. It's actually an easier pattern too, believe it or not, in Saturn and PC. I guess they thought that this boss was too hard. I'm not sure. The Saturn and PC ports came in 97, and it's worth noting that the Saturn port was the only version until, like, Mega Collection of this game that was released in Japan. Like, this was the Genesis version of this game that came out in 96 was I believe Europe and US exclusive. It never touched Japan until 97, where they got Sega Saturn. Please! Flicky!
So we have Panic Puppet now. For Panic Puppet 1, the flickies are actually in these, like, tubes, instead of inside enemies. But that just means that there are a metric frick ton of enemies everywhere.
Yeah.
So, and just like the item boxes, for some reason, these tubes are really hard to, like, break properly. So you basically just have to blind yourself up. It's a bit of a mess.
You're normally able to jump up that slope with enough momentum, but I failed that and proceeded to fail the spin dash backup strat like 3 times. And also, these tubes are incredibly difficult to interact with.
Yeah. Also, there's these spider enemies, which are really, really annoying. They just shoot out in semi-random. I'm not sure if it's random or if they do it in a pattern.
I'm not sure either, because, oh my god, the mine.
Oh, no, not the mine. So yeah, when you come out of this, there's a mine right there, and they can just snipe you. Wait, did you... What?
Yeah, so normally what happens is you're supposed to hold straight down when you and roll into that invincibility that I picked up, and then you just jump to be able to avoid the Mind Blast, but I apparently jumped a little too late, so I bounced off the wall with my momentum, and then was just in range of the Mind Blast, which was pretty annoying, honestly, and I also... Oh, it was Panic Puppet 1, that's right.
Yeah. Alright, so now we have Panic Puppet 2 coming up. Count me in for the thing,
Oh
please.
man, I will count you down.
This stage doesn't have flickies at all. It's just straight running through the thing as fast as possible. There's one annoying part and one great part in this in this stage.
And Swezy's one of the reasons why it's great.
Yeah, I guess. I'm just gonna wait explaining the normal thing until it happens.
Alright, so 3, 2, 1, go! Eggman! This entire stage is built around a giant statue of Eggman, and we don't know why. Also, shoutouts to mandatory isometric platforming right there.
Right, this was the annoying thing I was gonna mention. There's mandatory platforming in isometric view. Why is this a thing? John Burton, what have you done? As if the rest of the game wasn't enough of a mistake, there's that section.
And awkwardly enough, Eggman snorts you through his nose.
It's wonderful.
It's very creepy. So this entire battle, I think, takes place in Eggman's brain and moves down through his stomach, and God knows where we come out. But this.
Why did you have to say that? I haven't even thought about that.
I didn't think about it until just now, in all honesty.
I'm scarred. All right, this is Panic Puppet 3. This is in 90% this would be the final fight, but we have we have the final fight.
We have the actual final fight.
I didn't mean to do that. So this boss has 3 different phases, and each one you have to hit each arm 4 times.
Yes.
The first one is that Amber just finished, just try to slam down on you. The second one here has fire, and it just tries to home in on you. It's very easy to avoid. We just basically run in a circle around the whole thing. There's a pretty long downtime where you actually can't hit either arm, so you have plenty of time to run around and not get hit by the flames.
Yeah, because the flame will expire after a certain amount of time, so we just want to make sure it does that before we get back into position to hit the next arm. Because if you take that turn a little too tight to get to the next arm, it will not expire until after it's ruined your day.
Yeah. And then for the third one, we have just a metric buckaton of balls.
A metric buckaton of balls. My God.
A metric buckaton, that's pretty good. Eggman just decides to shoot out blue balls against the blue ball. I guess, I don't know, he didn't play Pokemon when he was a kid.
Yeah, apparently, like, you'd think that fighting the same type of enemy with the same type of ammunition would not get you anywhere, but apparently Eggman thinks otherwise.
Yeah, he decides to just shoot out a lot of them. Luckily for Amber, she's only got like 1 or 2. As soon as you hit the arm, you can he stops shooting balls, and if you hit him on like the first couple of frames, just shoots no balls, which is wonderful and makes the section so much.
Yeah, it makes it so much better. Mind you, Sonic's T-posing as we exit Eggman's head. The Chaos Cough Drops are not quite as powerful as the Chaos Emeralds, so you don't go super, and you fight the most underwhelming final boss.
It is fantastically underwhelming.
But the song's good.
The song is pretty good. But yeah, this fight, it has 5 phases that you have to do twice.
Yeah, so I hope you like repetition, because this boss fight has a lot of it. This is essentially a glorified auto-scroller that you can slightly optimize by hitting him as quickly as possible as soon as he becomes vulnerable. And also, like, there's certain small optimizations in phases 1 and 3. And a bit of 5 as well. And that would then carry over into phase 6, 8, and 10, because they're the exact same phases. This is phase 3 and later 8. Oh God.
I just call it 3 and 3 because it's just the same. The phase 3 is probably the most annoying one, where these hands just try to slam down on you. They're pretty weird. They which one is focusing you changes depending on which one you're closest to. They can be pretty weird to learn the timing for this.
Yeah.
And Amber has like optimized the position here because they have to move back to their like these positions that you've seen a little bit ago. So you can optimize it by moving the hands to the middle.
So we're ready for the easiest phase in any boss fight ever?
Oh, yeah, that one was fun.
That's it, that's a phase. Now this phase is actually really funny. This is the whole idea here is that Eggman's causing chaos by shooting these rebounding balls everywhere, but there's several safe spots, including directly in front of him.
Oh! I didn't know about this one.
Yeah, TGH actually found that safe spot, and I came up with the spin dash strat for it. That was like cool. Last week when we found that out. It's great.
Yeah, usually what I've done is there's a safe spot in the corner, like right below where Eggman is, where you can stand in as well. But that one is even better. Nice.
Yeah, so the original safe spot is like
a
corner.
So now the rest of the fight is literally just the same thing, but again, for some reason.
Yeah, so I guess I'll take a moment to just quickly shout out the 3D Blast community. Thank you, Swezzy, for commentating. He was supposed to be commentating with Sega Junkie as well, or Mike89, as some of you know him by. But it's really, really late at night in Australia, so he couldn't really make it. So shoutouts to Michael though for that's him for at least offering to do commentary for me despite the late hour. And then shoutouts to the only kid who tasked this Zergrif, who helped with that, myself as well. Kurayami for holding the world record for as long as she did. She is gonna plan on fighting to get that back from Dagran for Beat the Game and TGH for Best Ending. And also shoutouts to TGH.
How long did she hold the record? It's been so long.
For any percent, she went back and forth with GTNTG, who also ran this game for a while.
Oh, right, yeah.
But she held Best Ending for about 6 years.
Yeah.
Like, uncontested. The only person who obsoleted her records was herself.
Yeah, Kurayami is a monster at this game.
She's also a wonderful person.
Oh, yeah.
Like, most of the 3D Blast community are just wonderful people. Time's gonna be here on Fade Out in just a moment, so I'll let you know. And time. I got a 41.56 there. But yeah, like that's more T-posing, and that's Sonic 3D Blast Best Ending. Once again, my name is AmberCyprian. If you ever have any questions about this game, whether it's the speedrun or anything in between, by all means, just like hit me up. I am one of the moderators for this game and pretty much the face of the community. And we're all very, very friendly and happy to help you guys learn the game or even just to answer general questions. There was one that I get often asked. Yes, there is a director's cut ROM hack that was made by John Burton. I don't like it as a speedrun, but it is a much better casual experience from what I understand. But I don't like it for speedrunning purposes for a number of reasons. If you ever have questions about that, find me on Twitter or Twitch and ask me. But that being said, I want to thank Swezzy for doing commentary again, and thank you so much, Strizer, for accepting this run. He accepted this back when my estimate was 50 minutes. I have since lowered it to 45, but seriously, go support the Canadian Cancer Society, if I'm not mistaken. That's what we're supporting. But Strizer's a good dude, and definitely doing this for a great cause, and maybe I'll have something else to offer for next year. Maybe it'll be 2 players, 1 controller, which TGH and I run.